Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double biceps. It is in the contract a legal requirement every single time we appear on camera, just making sure that the lawyers are happy, the boxes have been ticked. We are talking about Knuckles Up number 5. Get my hand on the camera. There it is. It's not over there. It is there because it's Knuckles Up number 5. And what a show it was. A slew of matches that took place at the Barrymoore Theatre in New Jersey. We saw a lot of Australians on the card, which is, I was very invested in this card. I wanted to see how these results were going to play out. So we saw Ryan Bowen, we saw Mario Timarcus, we saw our adopted son of Rickert Bornman, who is originally South African, but now that he's doing well and he's successful, we'll say he's an Australian sort of. But if he starts losing, he's back to South Africa. But at the moment, he's doing quite well. So we saw some incredible matches take place on the card, as well as Matoringi, Heather Morris. Of course, we can't forget our New Zealand brother. And yes, it was fantastic to see these matches take place and to see what the thing I really like about what Knuckles Up does is that they bring some of the lesser known amazing pullers from around the world and they'll bring them together and show them to a Western audience, because maybe these guys have never had the opportunity to be seen on a world stage before. They've dominated their region. They're the best in that area, but maybe it's because of logistical reasons or financial reasons. They just don't have the ability to travel internationally and get known on the world stage, but they are world-class athletes. So Knuckles Up has taken the lead here and said, we know these people are incredible athletes from around the world. We're going to bring them onto our show and show them to the world. And that's what we got to see here. You see this card, the lineup, they've got guys from all around the world, from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, America. We've got people from all over the place, from Europe. So great job and a big credit to what Knuckles Up is doing. Very, very pleased to see that happen, and for these athletes who are world class finally getting the opportunity to step up and be seen on a world stage. So I love that about the promotion. They're doing tremendous things. This is their 5th go at it, and they just continue to get bigger and better. Always great feedback from the athletes that Knuckles Up really looks after the athletes. And that they get packages given to them. They get picked up from the airports, they get shuttles, they get the hotels and everything paid for. The guys get taken to dinner, they get all these little things that you wouldn't think were important, but they really do make a difference when an athlete, especially if you're flying to a different country and you don't know where anything is, how to get food, where the gym is, where do I cut weight, I'm trying to do this, how do I get to the theater, I've got to get to weigh-ins, how do I do that? All of those little logistical things that happen in the background that you're not aware of. Knuckles Up takes care of all of that. They come up with schedules. They've got everything in place to make sure that it's as easy as possible for the athlete. I know they've got these goodie bags that every athlete gets, which are filled with like amazing electronic products and schedules and t-shirts and all these awesome things. So they really do look after their athletes, and we think that that is a fantastic thing and a big step in the right direction. And it does make a difference for the athletes. You hear everyone who has competed on Knuckles Up say that it was a tremendous experience. So they are doing great things for the sport of arm wrestling. Now to the actual card. So with this card, we saw, and I will give some spoilers here. If you haven't seen the results, you're probably not going to want to continue watching this, because I am going to talk about the results of the matches. I'm not going to talk about every match on the card. I'm just going to talk about the ones that I was very invested in. And the first one that popped up for me that I was very excited to see was Ryan Bowen, and he was taking on the UK's Tom Holland. So a very technical battle. Going into this, Dave Stockbridge, my AWE partner, had asked me on our prediction show, who do you think is going to win this? I couldn't pick a winner. I had this as a 50-50 match. Both guys, incredibly technical. They've both got world-class experience and knowledge. So it was, I don't know how this is going to play out. They both have the ability to win. They both have the ability to find the way through. And that's what we saw on this match. The first round, the opening round, Ryan Bowen sinking into a very deep hook position, but Tom Holland quite happy to sit on his bicep in that position and be pulled out of his shoulder. And he sat on his bicep for a decent amount of time, maybe 20 seconds, but he had pronation in his wrist, which was preventing him from being completely stiff. If he'd been turned over like this, he would have gone straight down to the pin pad. But he was able to keep that pronation in his wrist, which allowed him to stay in the match. He actually brought it back from that position, managed to get back to center. He was driving towards a pin for himself before we got an elbow foul, and we got a restart there. There was a little bit of controversy throughout the match. There was a couple of reviews that Tom requested. He thought that Ryan's shoulder had touched Tom's hand when he was really in close with that hook position. Ryan was really in tight like this, and Tom was saying that his hand had touched Ryan's shoulder. They went to a video review, which did take quite a while, and it would have been great for the audience at home to be able to see that replay and see what the third umpire was actually watching. The call was given that Tom's hand did touch Ryan's shoulder. So I believe it was a foul. They got a restart. There was a couple of moments throughout the match where Tom did request a review of a few things. He talked to the referee a lot throughout the match and said, that was a pin. That was an elbow foul. And although the referees did say, no, it wasn't, and that wasn't a foul. Tom utilizing his world-class experience to indicate to the referees that they need to be on top of those things and to be watching out for it. But we did see Ryan Bowen in the end getting up with a victory 3-1 over Tom Holland. A very good match, though. It was definitely entertaining, and I enjoyed it immensely. Both guys very technical. As we knew, it ended up being an inside game the whole way through. There was one moment where Tom was right in a sort of a hook press position, holding still and steady. And I was saying that he's waiting for his moment to explode, and he did, but he didn't. He went back for a top roll position. So it was a quick, sneaky move. He almost got the pin out of it, but it ended up slipping. Little controversial as well. Ryan Bowen being pulled out of the position he was in and turning his hand over to get out of that, to get a slip. Tom saying, hey, that's a slip in a losing position, but not given there. And, maybe rightfully so based on history of past matches. However, it ended up being a 3-1 victory for Ryan Bowen over Tom Holland. Both guys fantastic arm wrestlers and pure class gentlemen. So I don't think there was any animosity whatsoever. And I think they just very much respected each other after the match. We also saw the legend, the original, the best, and won't ever be beaten in terms of his legendary status, and that is Hollywood, Don Underwood, and he took on the rising superstar, Rickard Bornman, and the young 21-year-old from South Africa. And what an absolute superstar Rickard Bornman is turning out to be. He was able to dominate that match against Don Underwood in incredible circumstances. He was so far ahead that Don actually conceded the third round. The first round was a little bit of back and forth. Rickard false starting. You could see he was a little bit nervous going into the match. Not as familiar with the setups. In Australia, we're a little bit looser with our rules, especially with AWE. Judy from Holland and the lady who was refereeing this one, very strict, and no movement in ref script whatsoever is allowed, and that's exactly what happened there. So Rickard, as the hands were being closed a couple of times there, he did slightly start moving. He got a warning for that, or a foul. I think it was a warning to start with, but a little bit of nerves on display. But once the match actually started, you could see that Rickard was way ahead of Don in terms of power, and he got the pin on the first round. The second round, he actually took position, held position, started talking to Don, telling Don to keep working, Don could not move Rickard's arm, and then Rickard's just powered through him. Don at that point knew that he was not in the match at all, and he basically conceded that third round and got on the microphone, and in true Don Underwood fashion, he gave a fantastic promo. Don Underwood is an absolute legend in the world of arm wrestling. He does a tremendous job. He is the commentator for World Series of Arm Wrestling as well, and he is heavily into this sport. It's so good to see him back on the stage. And he said it himself. He said, I am a bad dude at this point in time. So if this guy here is doing that to me, you guys better watch out. I don't think there's a person in this room that could hold this young man. And so Rickard Bornman getting his moment on the microphone, very emotional. He is a wonderful young man, and he addressed his family back home in South Africa and gave thanks to them. And what a wonderful young man he is. We can't wait to see what's next for him. We've got a few people lined up. We don't want to give anything away at this point, but yes, there's many options for this young man, and especially now that they've seen what he is capable of. It's like, well, this may be the next world champion. And we're very, very excited for Rickard de Bornman. The other match that took place with an Australian, as I said, I'm not going to cover the whole card, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of the matches. Ron Barth, the absolute legend of arm wrestling, 43 years in the sport. That's my age. That's how old I am. And he's still going at 62 years old and still at the top of the arm wrestling world. At the pointy end of the spear, Ron Barth will remain, and he was able to get the victory over Mario Timarcus. Just too strong for Mario. Mario putting on a good performance. He gave it everything that he had, but just Ron's ability to control the center was just too much for Mario. Mario immediately being turned over onto his wrist and trying to hold with his bicep, but just being pulled out of position by Ron Barth's power. And what can you do against a man who's got 43 years of tendon and ligament conditioning in that wrist? To be able to get through that wrist in the center position is a big, big ask. And unfortunately, Mario Timarcus not able to get the job done on that day. But still, he has two great victories at Knuckles Up, and I'm sure that they would be excited to have him come back. I'm sure that Knuckles Up, Will and Chris were very excited to have a legend like Ron Barth come and compete on their card as well. I just wanted to talk about the production side of things, and I want to give props to Will and Chris for getting the card together, for getting the athletes together, the shirts, the uniforms, and the straps, the table, everything looked great. I did have some issues with the production side of things in terms of the camera work. Was a little bit frustrating for me watching. And I don't say this negatively. I just say this is some of the things I think can be improved, that they kept switching cameras as the match was being set up. And several times I counted 8 where they zoomed right out to a camera that was right at the back of the room. You could see the whole stage from a very long distance away, and the arm wrestlers were tiny little figures on the screen, and they've gone to that camera view a couple of times during matches. As the match is taking place, you couldn't see what was happening. So that was quite frustrating. I think that could be easily fixed. Maybe the production crew that they had weren't familiar with arm wrestling. It did feel like that. They just kept switching camera angles. They kept going to the top-down view. They kept going to a side view, that really far away view, as the match is about to take place. And then during the match, they're switching all over the place, which is just confusing to the viewer. You're missing pins. You're missing fouls. It's like, I'm trying to watch this, but they keep changing it on me, and I'm missing stuff. So that their lighting and everything was fine. It's just they needed somebody whoever was switching the camera angles needs a little bit more education on the sport of arm wrestling, I would say. And again, that's not being overly critical. That is just the way I saw it and the way I think it could be improved. Another thing that was frustrating to me was that at the very start of the event, Will, who did a great job in terms of his commentary and keeping the crowd excited on the microphone, he was a fabulous MC. He did a great job. And he also did a great job with his commentary. The microphones were nice and clear. You could hear them throughout. And you also had the referee's mic at a lower level. It's a very clever and good move to do that. One thing that was missing for me was the sound of the audience, and having amphitheatric sound was just not there. So it felt like there was just no one in the room. I could see they had some shots of the crowd, and you could see there was a full room there, but you couldn't hear them at all on the viewer side. It was just the commentators' mics, and then at a lower level, the referees' mics. There was no crowd sound unless they were really screaming. You could just faintly hear them in the background. So it really took a lot of the excitement, or the power, or the feel of the event out of it. It just felt like as the viewer, I was watching something that could have been taking place in a back room somewhere, because it felt like there was no crowd, there was no energy. It's the word I'm looking for. I got there in the end. The whole time I'm trying to think, what is that bloody word I'm trying to think of? Energy. The energy in the room, that I'm sure was electric, and you could see the amount of people that they had there. They would have been cheering, they would have been excited. You just couldn't hear it. And it would have been great to have been able to hear that, because it really would have added a lot of levels to the production. There was some long gaps between rounds. There's 60 seconds between rounds, which is fine. That's what we do with AWE as well. I would have loved to have seen replays during that time. They kept going to that really far distance camera shot when there wasn't anything happening at all. The commentary was fine in terms of trying to keep the audience entertained during that time period, but we're just seeing guys sort of mill about on the stage while this is taking place. And it was like, show us the replay, show us something else, show us some history or some highlights or something. I think that would have worked better for the viewing audience, to keep us more engaged, as opposed to, here's the round, okay, it's finished, now you've got a minute of pretty much nothing until they come back up. The setups were quite drawn out. And yeah, one of the things, this is what I was talking about before. So Will, at the very start of the event, did say that they weren't going to be calling micro elbow fouls, like, little bobbles like this, but they did. They called every one of them. And it made each match take a long time. And it's one of those things when you're watching an arm wrestling event and they say, okay, go, and that this round isn't going to finish, that somebody's just going to get called on a foul. You're not going to see a result until maybe both guys are on their last foul, and then it's like, okay, now we'll actually see a result here. So it was frustrating to watch from that aspect, that maybe the referees were not instructed on don't call the little elbow fouls. But I did record a couple of moments where the foul was basically that, like it was just this. They've called it. I mean, it's fair enough if you're going under the European rule set where those sort of fouls are called. But yeah, when you're at the start of the event and you're the person running the event and you're the MC and you've explained to the audience, we're not going to call those, but then the entire event they called those. That was a little confusing and frustrating. I don't think there was a round that went without fouls. Yeah. Anyway, apart from that, they did a tremendous job overall. There was just those little things which are very easy to fix. So the camera angle stuff, please stick to the main camera angle straight on shot while the match is taking place. If you want to have your alternate angles, put them in the replay. You can do that as much as you like. You can show it from a different angle. Maybe you see some cool stuff, show it in the replay in that 1 minute break that you've got. But switching it during the match, it just means I'm looking at something and now it's like, oh, hang on, and they've gone to a top view. Wait, what? It's very difficult to keep track of what's going on. I did like the fact that they had a review system in place that is very, very handy for the athletes who are not happy with a call, and they can say, look, I want that reviewed. I think the review process needs to be sped up, or they need to have it where the audience, the viewing audience, and even the people in the theater, if they could have put it on the main screen, that would have been a lot more powerful, because then we could see what they were trying to review, and we would understand and have our own opinion of, oh, well, did that touch or not? They did do it, I think, right for the last review, which was whether this is a pin or not. It was with Tom Holland and Ryan Bowen. And he had said that was a pin. They did actually show us on the replay that Ryan's hand had touched the pad. So that, if they could have done that for the other reviews throughout the event, I think that would have been a lot more impactful for the viewing audience. But overall, well done to Will and Chris and Knuckles Up. Can't wait for Knuckles Up 6, and congratulations to everyone involved. Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double biceps here. Oh, there we go. Just got to make sure the lawyers are happy that he's in the contract. Thank you, everyone, for watching.